George Foreman, Knockout King! It's Discord Day, baby! Shout out to MLK. Let's go, baby.
The devastating power of George Foreman is something of a legend.
Big George Foreman. In his career, he's copied the baleful stare of the man who once was his boxing hero, Sonny Liston.
Before Mike Tyson, there was Foreman. A mountain of a man. Who scared opponents and spectators alike.
The ref just doesn't care about that man at all. Like,
George Foreman wins his first professional fight.
I'm pretty sure he was dead after that first hit.
The greatest prize in sports. Twice. As two different fighters. Two different human beings.
Well, I've been up since 8 a.m. yesterday. It's 2:43, Costi. What's up?
Raised in Houston's 5th Ward.
An infamously impoverished community riddled with crime and violence.
It's such a shame when you're so poor and you don't want everyone else to know that you're so poor. Really, you're not poor, you're po.
It was here Foreman became the king of the street fight.
Because I kept fighting, getting into fights, picking on people, pushing around. I was a bully.
Foreman found refuge and purpose inside.
At least he can actually
circle.
admit it. A lot of people can't admit it.
At age 17.
Then all of a sudden, you get into boxing where anger is applauded.
Who got you involved in boxing?
That was a trainer, Doc Broder.
The 1968 Olympics were only a year away, but Doc promised to make George one hell of a boxer.
As a young man, he was regarded as one of boxing's most brutal contenders.
His sparring sessions aren't just a training routine. They are instead intense efforts by sparring partners to simply survive a 3-minute round with a man whose punching power is frightening.
Oh.
1967, I had my first boxing match.
Well, as you have seen, we have some young bombers to prepare for the Summer Olympic Games in boxing.
I wanted by knockout. It inspired me to be going to be a Golden Glove champion in San Francisco.
First time I'd ever heard his name. George was brand new. He had only been in a boxing ring for a couple of months at that time.
George raced through the Golden Gloves and into
I think looking in his eyes, legitimately looking in his eyes might have got me. Like, that would have been enough for me to just turn around and walk out the ring. Like, bro looked like a demon.
Right hand to the jaw.
Where his uncanny power was too much for even the veteran fighters.
George Foreman wins the gold medal of the 19th Olympiad.
For Foreman, boxing was a means to lift himself out
united black and white.
How much Foreman has progressed since his Olympic days remains to be seen.
You know, even though you were having all this professional success at that time, you were pretty angry.
In his first 40 fights, he knocked out 92.5% of his opponents.
Foreman with a left that is
there
like
were more
a
after 40?
a recurring piston, if you will.
God, every time, everybody back in the old days fought like 150 times.
Sonny Liston first, then George Foreman, who was like an improvement on Sonny Liston, and then Mike Tyson.
George mimicked his persona after the great Sonny Liston.
I met Sonny Liston. He became my role model. He had to be the most angry fella I'd met. He'd look right through you.
He had this very forbidding, intimidating, utterly hostile manner about him.
I can't believe early on that George had acquired some of Sonny's characteristics directly from Sonny. He learned how to glower, and he learned how to punch.
George is doing his best imitation of Sonny Liston. All of a sudden, you have this stare coming at you.
George Foreman.
He wanted to scare his opponents, to be seen as a monster.
Well, shit, as soon as I saw him in a press conference, like, hey, get me out. Get me out of there. I'm good. Who signed me up for this?
When I was in the ring, you really saw the best of me. Outside the ring, I was really some terrible fellow because I did some things to people that mostly, in the ring, I'm not ashamed of my boxing matches, but outside the ring, some of the things we did, I'm ashamed of to this day.
Jesus. He probably beat people just into a whole different world, bro. Because he did that with gloves. Imagine feeling that full fist on your face. Oh, God.
Look at George pulverized.
I thought that with my fist, I could knock any man out.
The media, his peers, and the fans all viewed him as the villain, the monster, who hurt and punished his foes with little remorse.
How he selling them grills? Everybody thought he was scary.
The scourge of the heavyweight division. George Foreman is now the #1 contender for the heavyweight championship.
What?
And the question is, who's going to stop this Foreman steamroller? It looks like Muhammad Ali and even champion Joe Frazier will have to make room for this Houston Tornado, George Foreman.
In his first title fight, Foreman would be pitted against fan favorite Joe Frazier.
Frazier had recently defeated Muhammad Ali and was viewed as the far superior boxer.
I wouldn't want to fight him.
The Frazier fight was that George was a raw sort of rookie without the depth or the background to beat a great fighter like Joe Frazier.
Scoring 34 knockouts. He's 6'4" and has a reach of 78.5 inches. George Foreman, the challenger.
Because Joe Frazier had beaten Muhammad Ali and was undefeated, they didn't see how this young kid could win.
He was undefeated and was coming off the Ali win, and he was a 3.5 to 1 favorite.
I must break you.
Jesus. Jesus.
And then he's got these hands that are literally like canned hams.
Yep.
And he just...
George was powerful. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he was out there to get me.
You can tell those hits hurt because he's not even able to come back, bro. Oh my God.
The greatest boxers could not stand up to him.
It was absolutely devastating. No one could believe it. And from that point on, George was regarded as invincible.
Man say, oh, I'm the greatest.
He was dropping death
Well,
charges.
she's got more than aim assist.
Couldn't survive it.
Foreman demolished the great Joe Frazier,
Oh my God.
knocking him down 6 times.
You've been known as the hardest puncher ever.
Never taken this kind of punishment.
All I had was this one punch. And if I could hit you with I would hit you with it. I could take you out. If I miss you, you'd win on decision.
It's target practice for George Foreman.
And remember how he knocked Joe Frazier upside his head when Joe Frazier literally tried to run away from him?
God.
The winner is George Foreman.
Oh my God.
To be heavyweight champion of the world, as soon as it happens to you, it's like John L. Sullivan, Braddock, all the Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, Mohammed. It's like they all just pour right into you, and you feel at that moment, you feel, I am the heavyweight champion of the world.
George was now a celebrity, and the couple was besieged by reporters.
It's that those guys weren't Tony Tubbs and guys like that. It was Joe Frazier and Kenny Norton.
Yes.
Frazier had split 2 fights with Ali.
I never thought that Mike Tyson was the scariest, in his prime, the scariest fighter. The person that I thought about
look how he's
was
looking
George
right now,
Foreman.
bro.
Well, to be a boxer, number one, you gotta be stupid. You gotta halfway be crazy.
We think we are likely to have a slugfest. We don't expect the fight to go
Walk
all
him down.
the way.
Walk him down.
That quick punishing right floors him for the second time.
Any of his fights when he scored those big knockouts, he would really brutalize the guy before he got him out of there.
Final knockdown takes place.
How is he still standing? How is he still standing? Oh, his soul is gone.
Look at Roman's eyes.
Oh
Utterly
my
glazed.
God.
Foreman with that impassive face. Now, Foreman's being acknowledged as the winner. Roman still cannot get up.
Kenny Norton had split 2 fights with Ali, 24 rounds, and Ali was lucky to win the second one, and he broke Ali's jaw, and Foreman knocked them both out in 2 rounds.
And then turned around and lost to Muhammad Ali in 12 rounds on a split decision back in September. Combination of cheers and catcalls. Definitely the favorite here, as far as the crowd is concerned, is Ken Norton. As far as the odds are concerned, it's George Foreman.
The most menacing heavyweight of all time. It would be George Foreman.
I was going to be the best heavyweight that ever.
They had to jog in there, huh?
He is with Ken Norton, and the reason for that, of course, is that he doesn't like George Foreman one bit. Do you really believe, Ali, that he can beat this man?
Yeah, the man went 24 rounds with me, broke my jaw in the first round. I was in shape the second fight.
In those days, he was a bully.
the people around him were afraid of him. Foreman had really brutalized the people who trained him, and they were terrified of him.
Given the hell he gave me, as fast as I am, as accurate as I am, I couldn't whoop Ken Norton.
I had beaten the best in Joe Frazier. No doubt about it, I had beaten the best. People had something to say about that. I said, you know what? I'm going to kill one of these fellows. Then they'll shut up.
And it looks like Norton has really been...
Bro, he is out.
Destroyed Frazier, destroyed Kenny Norton.
Whipped by Kenny Norton, not Kenny Norton out easily.
Oh
Once again,
my!
Muhammad Ali found himself in
Oh my
great
God, look
demand.
at...
The
Bro,
WBC and the WBA mandated the fight. The public certainly wanted it, and the media clamored for it.
Jesus' doorstep, bro. Oh my God.
Muhammad Ali's career.
Other boxers were scared, handlers were scared. The only person that didn't appear scared of Foreman was Ali.
The Foreman that fought Ali, 40-0, 37 knockouts. Unbeatable, the guy's never gonna lose.
Everybody was scared, but Muhammad Ali himself.
Ali is getting the people to chant, Ali Bomaye.
Ali really was that guy, man. Until that boy got knocked the f out.
Have you fought many guys who were talkers in the ring?
No, I never get a chance to talk much. By the time you get to know a fella, it's all
I feel like his chillness is what's
For the fight
scary.
itself, discussion centered not on who would win, but on how much punishment Foreman would dish out.
The time may have come to say goodbye to Muhammad Ali.
And now we understand that George Foreman is about to make his way to the ring.
Because very honestly, I don't think he can beat George Foreman.
Cosell was convinced that Ali was washed up.
Did he lose this fight? They was talking like Joe lost his hoe. I mean, like George lost it.
This guy was the closest thing to a human monster I'd ever seen
Like,
before.
look at the
He was certainly the
beatiness.
scariest boxer.
Look at this now as they
Like,
stare
look at me.
Muhammad
You're not
Ali
scared of his
beginning to
face. Like, you see his face in the alley?
They're really
Like,
putting
you
a
might
stare
try to
on each other.
rob me. No cap.
To stare him down and said, "Oh, George, you were in school when I was beating Sonny Liston."
Gone in the past 4 years beyond 2 rounds in any fight.
He knew that the one weakness in this monster was thought of as unbeatable was his stamina.
The first round, all of us yelled out, "Get off the ropes." And he would just say, "Shut up, I know how to do it."
I would say
Oh, this is this fight. Oh man, I remember this when we were watching the Ali documentary.
And he didn't even realize
Oh shit.
It was Muhammad Ali's fertile mind that created the rope-a-dope.
Here we go, round number 2 to determine Ali. Get off his stool in between rounds. George Foreman sat down all the way. Ali leans on the rope. Richmond didn't see it, fighting him.
Starting second or third round, when he went to the ropes, he was calling Foreman all kinds of names. Any name of ugliness you can think of.
He fought just like your initial bump, just lay on the rope and take it with him. But this time he did it with character. He said, "Hey, I'm going to weather the storm."
The rope-a-dope was something that was invented by Muhammad Ali that night.
I must say, I don't understand those tactics, Joe, staying on the ropes and letting him hit
It just shows you the power of intellect and intelligence and how that can compete against
How do you
anything.
take those hits? Like, how you just keep taking it?
I was a big,
Look at this
powerful
man's
giant
face.
in the ring with Muhammad.
Like, he's
I mean, a
he's
knockout
tired
artist.
as hell,
He
bro.
stood up.
And all he's throwing his hardest punches, and Ali's just
setting him up against the rope. Look at him whispering in the ear of Foreman.
George Foreman, so young, so strong.
Not supposed to do, leaning up against the ropes. 4 punches downstairs on Ali.
So fearless.
I had him beat. I really did. And really thought I had him beat up in the body, had him tired.
Continues to talk, continues.
Against George Foreman, he does away with his opponents one after another
Jesus.
in less than 3 rounds.
George not going that type of distance a long time. He was treading in water, never been in before.
This is the furthest that George Foreman has gone in a fight since 1972. Misses the right hand. Ali is definitely confusing him.
Missing the shots that he missed, it drained him.
Look at Foreman's face. He does look tired.
Nobody knew the strength of Muhammad Ali. He was manhandling him, just like Archie said, grabbing him, and he emptied the guy's tank.
I was afraid he was going to get killed by a George Foreman that many of our young viewers don't know.
He out. God. Oh, come on. Throw them bitches. Throw them. God. That was, bro, imagine just seeing this in person. Oh, feeling this energy.
No doubt about it. He went right over here to this corner.
You know, the guy really was the people's choice, and he was the people's choice because he loved them.
Yes, I'd hate to predict any.
So this was like Foreman's hardest fight.
Said Foreman would win in a flash.
I can't even be mad knowing that the only person that can touch me, the only person in the world that can give me a run for my money is the greatest boxer ever.
After 8 rounds down here, I'm laying on the canvas, listening to a referee. I was embarrassed.
Look at the accuracy. While backing up, look at the accuracy, bro. What?
And the most devastating thing in the world to lose the coveted heavyweight championship of the world. I'd worked so hard to get it. And it doesn't, your life is gonna change once more. From all of this confidence and to devastation.
He was beaten mentally more than physically.
Come home and I was angry for a long time. I figured I'd been betrayed by my managers. I'd been given things in my water to roast or lose. I had all the kind of excuses that filled me with hatred and revenge. I felt like I'd lost everything, not just the championship of the world, but I'd lost myself as a man.
Many have felt that Foreman's psyche was materially damaged by the disaster in Zaire of 15 months ago. Foreman's stamina having become suspect in the Zaire affair.
After the defeat, the mystique of Foreman had vanished.
The intimidating bully destroyer of worlds persona was replaced by questions about Foreman's boxing skills.
If Foreman is to come back and get another shot at the crown, he must win
he
this
messed him
fight.
up like that?
And it would help to win it impressive. The face of George Foreman and, for that matter, of Ron Lyle, each speaking for itself. Just look at
Ron
this.
was crazy.
He would immediately be tested by fellow brawler Ron Lyle.
We're about to bring you what we think promises to be a slugfest, a legitimate heavyweight contest.
One of the great back-and-forth wars in boxing history.
A good right by Lyle, and he's got Foreman in trouble. He's got him in trouble.
I was hit so hard I didn't even feel it until I hit the canvas.
Foreman is down. It started with a right, then
Oh,
a
he
left.
tried
I've never
to
been hit
finish
so
that
hard in my
man.
life.
Now Foreman's fighting back. Foreman trying to hold together.
Oh my
Now
God.
George struck back. Now George fought back with a magnificent right.
If every boxing match, world title match, would have ended like
I would have been
George
talking to
Foreman,
God.
Ron Lyle,
I would have been talking to God after that.
Some punches, and just speaking in general terms, you've said some punches are so ferocious that they don't hurt. They actually will interrupt communication between the tower and the ground.
Foreman goes down. Foreman goes down. Lyle fights
And
back.
again, if only it had hurt, I would not have gotten up. It was like you are no longer the same person. You see your legs wiggle, and you're not in control of yourself.
Oh yeah.
Now Lyle is hurt. Now Lyle is hurt.
Bro, what? They was brawling like this? Oh, this is epic.
Just punching away. Each fighter in turn leaving himself open.
Oh, come on. Oh, come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Drop that man.
This time it may be over. This time it may be
Drop that
over.
man, yeah.
Lyle's not gonna make it.
Yes, sir.
He's not going to make it. A knockout in the 5th round.
He won in spectacular fashion, but the rematch with Ali was not given.
George, you think Ali's maybe backing down from another meeting with you?
There's no telling what he's doing. I would love a rematch. I was fueled by a lot of anger, and I walked around with that for years.
What's that outfit? It's kind of crazy that he never switched it up. I almost feel like that's cooler that you like came out in the same flow. You know what I'm saying? Like the same vibe every time. Joe Frazier, bro. Joe Frazier.
Instead, he would do battle with Joe Frazier again.
I would have never got back in the ring with this man. I feel like Joe got hungrier later on.
Fight.
Never mind. Never mind.
In the 5th round by a technical knockout, and dreams a whole new dream. Another match against Muhammad Ali.
In my mind, there only exists one piece of tension, and that's for the heavyweight championship of the world. And I would like to avenge the only defeat I ever had against you know who. I'm not gonna give him no publicity.
Still, the rematch with Ali was not given. George's love for the sport of boxing had begun to wane. He would lose a close decision to Jimmy Young.
And Jimmy Young, who said he had a religious experience after the loss to Young. Others called it heat frustration in Puerto Rico in 1977.
And then he would retire, unceremoniously.
People when everybody, oh, that's okay, man. You know, you'll come back. It was just a fight. But then all of a sudden, things started happening in that room.
He was rushed to the hospital, and the press was told that Foreman had become overcome by the heat. But George felt he had suffered more than a momentary blackout.
The feared brute, known as Big George Foreman, disappeared from the public consciousness.
Like a fucking gnat.
During a 10-year break from boxing, George Foreman contemplated what Ali had taken from him.
One of the beautiful things that he did is he acknowledged the ability of Muhammad Ali and acknowledged that loss and put a shrine up in his home.
This is the proof that I was in the fight with him. Punched me right on the eye.
I started to
wow, it changed him like that.
My life, but be happy about.
He just really started living. I wouldn't even say it changed him. He just
and become
I feel like he found himself almost.
Retired from boxing to preach the word of God. The little fame and fortune we get is not going to follow us in the grave, brother, sister.
He would find his peace in his faith, serving as a minister for the next 10 years.
During that 10-year absence, at any time, did you have the desire to come back?
10 years, I didn't even shadow box.
He became a terrific father.
You've got 5 sons, 5 daughters. I know you're very proud of all of them.
10
all
kids,
named George.
it's crazy.
I named all my sons George Edward Foreman.
In 1984, he had started the George Foreman Youth and Community Center.
He opened his own youth center, emptying his entire savings to do so.
Giving money for scholarships for kids to go to school. I had to keep that up.
He would hold fundraisers to keep the center going, but as his money ran out, George was in danger of losing it all.
The youth center started to take every dime I could get. It started costing everything to get a foundation, lawyer fees, building. I wanted to go out and do myself, and I ran out of money, and that's the reason I even got myself back into boxing.
13 years after losing his title, George Foreman began the seemingly impossible task of regaining it.
I said, I got to go back into boxing. I asked my wife, I said, what do you think? She said, they're going to kill you. Don't do it. You're like 300 pounds. You're too old. You'll never be champ of the world, because they thought I wanted it overnight. But I looked in the mirror and said, you know, they're telling the truth. I'm pretty old here.
Tomorrow night, veteran boxer George Foreman will put on the gloves and climb back into the ring after
I bet he got a lot of money for this first fight back.
Start from the bottom. I know how to promote. I know how to recreate. I know how to get myself back in shape.
Just as unceremoniously as he had retired, he returned, fighting no-name opponents and journeymen.
So I came back. I got a scale. I was 315 pounds.
God.
That's a knockdown because no, it isn't. It should have been. He went against the ropes. Right. I think Howie wants to quit. That's it.
And then when people started to take him seriously because they were tantalized by a charming, fat old heavyweight, I just swooned at their gullibility.
George was viewed as a joke, held up as an example of the decline of the sport of boxing.
Why? That man was great. Why was they looking at him like that?
On his past accomplishments.
So is it because of the fact that he was fighting like no-name people?
8 straight wins.
An aging, overweight has-been.
They laughed at me. And people wrote me from all over the world, George, don't do it.
Trying to recapture that glory.
Oh man, don't tell me he took like a big fight or something.
Write me, there wasn't a dime in the mail.
Carefully and quietly, he rounded himself back into boxing form.
They laughed at me and I fought one fight after another. One after another. They laughed. The more I win, the more they would joke. George Foreman's not fighting anyone.
That is George Foreman, the 39-year-old ex-champ.
God.
As his competition rose, opponents were dead set on proving the old man was finished.
Yeah, he still has that unbelievable punching power, even though he's got a belly and he looks like he's shambling around in his pajamas. He's still got something.
But here he is 3 years later, so I have to salute him. Salute him for pulling off one of the
was literally out just, that's like the most old school workout style ever. He just outside chopping trees on his land.
Look at the left, come up and slice him up. And Jerry Cooney's in big trouble.
Just right down the pipe? He not doing me like that. I'm just saying, he not doing me.
And there he goes. 2, 3, 4. And he is badly hurt.
Shit, more than bad. God. I think the ref saw it just like I saw it. He was like, oh my God, no. Don't throw that last punch. He's already out. I see it happening. That little boy is dead.
Unlike in his first go-around, George was now a fan favorite. His lovable charisma and willingness to poke fun at himself endeared him to the masses.
In boxing, no one is bigger, more admired, or more in demand.
By George, I think he's got it.
George had become the undisputed king of the big cell.
Because George is very popular, and he deserves the popularity that he's gotten because he's a natural. There's nothing funny about it.
Appearing on magazines, commercials,
even TV.
His own sitcom.
But you look good. You look great.
You only saying that because it's true.
So this is how he built up.
Foreman the boxer was famous,
okay.
but Foreman the salesman was a phenom.
George III.
Cheese here.
I was a salesman. I'd learned to be a salesman. I had 10 years out of boxing to be an evangelist, and I understood if you don't really make some noise and make people pay some attention, no one is going to stop and listen to you.
At the peak of his fame, he became the spokesperson for a household grilling product, the George Foreman Grill, earning Foreman nearly $5 million a month from sales.
And then all of a sudden, the checks just started rolling in. This thing sold over 100 million.
Right, and to give the check some context too, you end up being
I've
bought
had
out
like
that
so many of those grills too. It's crazy.
After what you had already made.
This is my George Foreman family-sized grill that's
No, it isn't. It's my George Foreman griddle that cooks pancakes.
Everybody likes a jolly fat man.
Well, one thing people love about him, you saw right there, the highest knockout percentage in the history of all heavyweight champions. Part of George Foreman's odyssey in this comeback, up and down the scale. Thus seems like yesterday's weigh-in.
Yes, his first return fight, he weighed 267. Here he is 3 years later, 263. You've heard of the diet formula, what is it, Slim Fast? I think George has developed Slim Slow. It doesn't appear like George is hitting hard, but once he hits the guy, he totally paralyzes his opponents.
God! I feel like he was out before he even followed through with that right.
Boom, perfect timing.
Rodriguez goes down.
Look at him. Throw it in. Throw it
in. Foreman, who demolished Joe Frazier to capture the world crown 17 years ago, is making a remarkable comeback. Now shaven-headed, he's recorded 22 victories on his way to another shot at the world title.
And it wasn't long before a super fight against heavyweight champ Evander Holyfield was in high demand. In what would be, at that time, the biggest payday in heavyweight history.
George said, I may be old,
I
may be fat, but he said, here I is.
Mark, with a 28-year-old Evander Holyfield, undisputed heavyweight champion, and for the first defense, he's fighting a 42-year-old George Foreman.
The pundits were convinced the fight was more farce than anything.
So a lot of people made a big deal about this as being a farce beforehand.
You think that George, even though you say Holyfield is going to win, you think Foreman has a chance to win this fight?
But it took only a few
So you're telling me
rounds
they've been doing this in history? Like, this is crazy. Everybody was mad at like the influencer guys, like fighting the big dudes and whatnot for like massive paydays and whatnot, things like that, or fighting the older boxers. Like, look at this. This is kind of crazy. Wow. Okay.
before no one was laughing.
Well, it's thought, Nigel, that if it goes past 4 rounds, Foreman could be in some trouble.
Because, of course, the whole game plan for Evander Holyfield is to wear George Foreman down.
A drama entitled "The Old Guy Hung in There." Took a beating but went the distance, kept coming and trying.
Oh!
Holyfield blasted Foreman, connecting clean, but Foreman kept coming.
Staggered! Holyfield has staggered Foreman!
Seemingly impervious to pain,
George seems to have absorbed those punches in the previous round rather well, Dan.
He did. Surprisingly well.
Just kept coming back.
Evander's best shots and pushed forward, and though he was slow and plodding, his power could turn any fight with a single punch.
Well, here he comes. George is Holyfield.
Oh, walking him down. Walking him down. He hurt. Yeah, he feeling that. Oh, man. Oh.
The first round I gave to George because I think he legitimately hurt Evander in the last 30 seconds.
Round 6, scheduled for 12. For the undisputed heavyweight title.
Any who thought the bout was just for spectacle had been silenced.
Those are the punches that are put down all the heavyweights that Evander Holyfield has faced so far.
Here comes Holyfield. Doubling his
Oh my God, like. Oh my God, he's not walking away from this. Was that an elbow? He's not walking away from this, bro. There's no way.
George Foreman just took some tremendous shots.
He's still coming forward. What? No, I don't walk down. I don't walk down. Like, do you know how insane it has to be to throw everything that you have in your body? And then somebody just goes, huh, all right. Keeps walking right towards you. Like, bro, what? That's what separates men from boys, bro. I'm telling you right now. That's how you know. That's how you know. That's the dog, bro. That's the dog. What? Oh, that's insane, bro.
It's trite to say, but Foreman was a winner in many respects here tonight as well.
Ultimately, Foreman was beaten on points, but the way he fought proved that the second coming of Big George Foreman was no
It showed he was
mirage.
ready.
Like the eighth wonder of the world. Never will you ever see this again.
George,
it'll take 50 years before another generation sees something like this. We're a man closer to 50, 60 than he is to 20 and 19. Show the whole world by going toe-to-toe, and the young man is holding on for his breath. And we keep going. Boy, I tell you, what is happening to the world? All senior citizens
Definitely
around
a
the
true
world can be
winner,
proud
bro.
of themselves. Hip, hip, hooray!
Like a lot of fans, I started to think to myself, George, you've thrilled us, you've been great, you've inspired us, you've entertained us. But now, please, isn't it time to go back to the old fishing hole before you seriously get hurt?
A few days after Michael Moorer beat Evander Holyfield, I got a call from George. And I said, George, you can't kid me. You want to fight Michael Moorer. And he said more than anything else in the world.
When Michael Moorer defeated Holyfield to become the new champion, George Foreman, at age 45, would get one final shot.
I knew what Teddy told me, like, he's a big con.
What?
I just look at him like,
Go get me a sandwich and sit down.
man, you're so fake.
Featuring the clown
Go
king
get
of the
me a
sport,
sandwich.
the larger-than-life George Foreman.
Well, there are a lot of skeptics out there who think that George now is more King Khan than King Kong. But George hasn't earned this championship shot as a fighter. He hasn't fought in a year and a half, and on that inauspicious occasion, he lost
to Tommy Morrison. With the fighter he's fighting.
Damn, they really hate him.
He's going to have to punch and punch and try to club him and just keep beating him. But I don't think that's going to happen.
So you see no chance that George can win the fight?
Very little.
Very little.
Foreman looked to become the oldest
Welcome
heavyweight
back,
champion
Kill.
in
Hope you
boxing
enjoyed the
history.
food, gang.
But despite the optimism of the crowd, few gave Foreman more than a puncher's chance.
Middle-aged men don't knock out 25-year-old heavyweight champions.
I mean, he stayed in the ring with.
Win the heavyweight title by
Like, why are they down him? I don't understand how you could down him. He already showed he could stay in the ring.
From the Rumble in the Jungle, had the brain of the George Foreman who fought Michael Moore. That's the greatest fighter ever.
Let's get ready to rumble!
I'm the boss man here. Take hands to lunch.
George, how are you going to find?
The vibrations are against him, the planets are against him, and already he done lost the first 5 rounds.
But it's revealing that he chose to wear the same trunks on this night that he had worn in the jungle 20 years before.
George Foreman in the shorts he wore that night in Zaire, the Rumble in the Jungle, when he lost his world heavyweight title.
I told you, I'm the champion of the world. But
he about to beat this man?
Muhammad Ali, and everybody has felt all along that you're always chasing the ghost of Ali. Does this make you?
Sure.
20 years after being beaten by Ali, Big George Foreman recaptured the heavyweight championship. The oldest champion in the history of boxing.
That's kind of crazy, bro.
I'm not the greatest, but I'm the hungriest. And those guys were younger, stronger, faster, more sophisticated. But the one thing they lacked, and I had, was good old hunger.
Nobody brings it home like Joe Vincent.
No cap, Joe. No cap, Joe. That boy Joe is a beast, man. Oh my God. Oh my God, bro. Hey, shout out to MLK, bro. That was a fire one. That was a fire one game.